This video is going to go over the access control list we're going to put in place in the lab this week. As you work through this portion of the lab, you're supposed to be testing some different things to see what works and what doesn't work. The end result we want is to only let web traffic out of VLAN 2 and VLAN 3 and only let the web traffic into our servers from the outside. So that's our end goal. One of the things we're testing is SSH and ping, and at the end of the lab config part, those things should not work. So I'm going to run through the access control list part, doing minimal testing. Before you start this part, you probably don't want to proceed if you don't have your NAT stuff working correctly. So make sure your NAT is correct. And make sure your NAT is correct by connecting to the public NAT IPs from the outside. And so that's my VLAN 3 server. That's my VLAN 2 server. And then you want to make sure you can get out from your PCs to www.cnt.lab. So in Packet Tracer, the DNS takes a while to resolve initially. So there, everything I tested worked. You're also going to test SSH and ping. I guess I can test ping real quick to show you that it's going to work, and we can test that. We can test that not working when we don't allow it, I guess. Yeah, so ping works still. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to modify what we let into the network. The thing about writing ACLs is you really need to understand how the traffic flows. So if I said go write an access list to let websites work, you might be like, oh, Rich, that's great. I know how to do that because websites use HTTP, which is TCP port 80, which is true. But we also need to let DNS work, right? Did you think about DNS, or you're like, oh yeah, DNS, forgot about that. So you know, you got to really understand what's going on. So we're going to create the extended access list. I'm going to name it inbound from internet because this is going to be the list that's going to let the traffic in from the internet. I'm going to specify what I'm letting the traffic to as I'm doing this. So we're gonna permit TCP is a protocol. Permit TCP. The next thing is the source. So it's coming in from the internet, so we're gonna let it from any source. The next is the destination or source port or whatever. We're gonna put a destination. We're gonna let it to one single host address, and that single host address is gonna be the NAT address we're using for the VLAN 3 PC. And then we want to specify what port we're allowing it to get to. And we're gonna allow it to get to port 80. We also want to let it get to port 443. And we are not doing DNS. Even though I just said DNS a few minutes ago, we're not doing DNS from on your network yet. So we don't need to let DNS in from the outside yet. So at this point, you should go test, see that you can get in from the outside still. So 99.99.99.10 allowed access. Wait, I did 20, right? Allowed access to 99.99.99.20. Did I? No, I did 10. I did the wrong one. You're supposed to do your VLAN. No, that is my VLAN 3. Never mind. 10. That should work. I did not allow traffic to my VLAN 2 PC, so that should not have worked. I'm guessing that was the cached page. Let's try that again. Let's try that again. Oh, that still worked. And the reason that still worked is because I didn't actually apply the access list to the interface. This is something that students mess up a lot. Creating the access list makes it exist, right? This access list exists, but I didn't apply it to the interface. So I need to go to my external interface and apply that access list. So IP access group, the name of the access list, so inbound from internet, and I want to apply that in the inbound direction. So we can filter traffic coming in the interface or traffic going out of the interface. In this case, I want to filter traffic coming in the interface. So now that I actually applied the access list, let's see what happens when I try to go there. Hit the trusty fast forward button. The VLAN 2 server timed out. The VLAN 3 server works. So that was the expected result. You have to apply the list to the interface for it to work. So we're also going to test getting out to cnt.lab. We're filtering the inbound traffic going to the web server. So do you think the traffic going out to cnt.lab is going to work? Yeah. Spoiler alert, it's not going to work. If you read ahead in the lab sheet, you know it's not going to work because our filtering on the router external interface is not letting the return traffic back in from the internet. I guess fast forward doesn't work for, oh, there we go. So yeah, so it failed. So to fix that, we're going to go modify the inbound from internet list. We're going to go back into our inbound from internet list, and we're going to permit return traffic. And the way we're going to do that for TCP is this command, permit TCP any established. That essentially says, hey, if the connection already exists, let the TCP traffic back in. And that's going to work for any TCP-based protocol. And then for DNS, we need to specify what we think the traffic is going to look like coming back. So we're going to send traffic out to any DNS server. When we send it out, it's going to go to port 53. So we want to let traffic back in from any DNS server from port 53, and we're going to let it in to any for reasons. So that should let DNS traffic back in. So now if I go to my browser, I don't know why my browser's taking so long to open in Packet Tracer. I was making this video the other day and it's doing the same thing. So now, theoretically, if I go out to cnt.lab, it should work. Yeah, so now the outbound traffic worked as expected. So that was the list we need to create to let inbound traffic in and also let the return traffic back in. Now we want to go to our filter traffic from VLAN 3. So we're going to create a new list. It's going to be, we're going to call it outbound from VLAN 3. And we're going to apply this on the inside interface in the inbound direction, which we'll get to in a minute. So we want to let the same stuff out, kind of, permit TCP. Instead of this time doing any, we want to specify the subnet for VLAN 3, which if we go look at our VLAN 3 interface, 10.1.1.129, so that's the 10.1.1.128 subnet, 10.1.1.128, and then we want the wildcard mask to go along with a 26-bit net mask, and that's a 63, and we're going to let it out to any host EQ 80. So we're going to let anything out over port 80. We also want to let anything out over 443, which is HTTPS. And we want to let traffic out over 53 for DNS. And you might be tempted to hit enter here, but we shouldn't, because we should know. We probably don't know yet. Maybe should know from previous classes. But DNS uses UDP for queries. So that should let our traffic out that we need to let out. So I'm going to go into the VLAN 3 interface and GI 0/0/1.3 IP access group outbound from VLAN 3, and we need to apply that in a direction. And the list is called outbound from VLAN 3, so you might think, oh, I should put out for the direction, and that would be incorrect. This in or out is reflecting where on the interface it is occurring. We are filtering the traffic that's leaving the VLAN 3 devices as it's coming into the router on that interface. So we want to filter traffic coming in that interface. This isn't in or out of the network, it's in or out of the interface. So in this case, we want to filter the traffic coming in that VLAN 3 interface. So that applied to that list to the VLAN 3 interface. So now I'm going to use my VLAN 3 PC to test going out to the rich net when this browser opens. And so I'll test going out to the rich net from VLAN 3. All right, that worked. If I was to test VLAN 2, it would still work because we didn't filter that yet. Let's try the ping. The ping should not work. So now the ping should be broken. Yeah, so now the ping's broken. We're getting an error message back from the router. So yeah, let's test from the outside coming back into to our server. Oh, that was the outside I was supposed to be testing. Yeah, that timed out. Why did that time out? That was working before you created that access list. What's up? Well, what's up is now our return traffic going back to the server is not being allowed. So if we look at our access lists, the only thing we're letting out of our network is the stuff we need for our clients to connect out. We also need to let that return traffic back out. So let's go edit that list. Edit the outbound from VLAN 3 list, and we need to permit TCP any established. So that's going to let the return traffic back out from the web requests that are coming in. You might be saying, Rich, should we let DNS out? Not yet. We shouldn't let DNS out, return DNS out, because we don't have DNS running yet. We'll adjust that once we get DNS going. So now the VLAN 3 web server worked as expected, and the pings are still broken. So that's pretty much what we need to do for the access control lists in this week's lab. You also need to go make a list for VLAN 2 and apply that to the interface. I'm not going to do that for you, but it's going to be the same list we use for VLAN 3. You just need to use the VLAN 2 subnet instead. So if we go look at VLAN 2, it's 10.1.0.1 for the IP address. So the subnet is 10.1.0.0 with a 24-bit mask. So the wildcard mask for that is going to be subnet wildcard mask for that's going to be, so that's what you should use on your VLAN 2 list in the outbound for the outbound traffic. So one last thing, the access control list said I wanted you to add pings, very useful to have functioning, so we want to make pings work. So we're just going to let all ICMP. So I'm editing the VLAN 3 list still, so I'm going to do permit ICMP any. That's going to let pings out from VLAN 3. So let's go to our VLAN 3 PC and test that. So that's going to let pings out. It's going to let pings out. Oh no, we're not getting replies. What is happening? We're not getting errors either. Yeah. Do you know what's happening? We're letting pings out, but we're not letting pings back in. So we also need to go modify the inbound list to let the pings back in. So we need to go apply our inbound from internet list. IP access list extended inbound from internet. We need to edit that list internet, and we need to permit ICMP any. So now if we go test those pings, they should work. They should work. It's still not working. What happened? I don't know. Let's go look at our running config and see if we can figure out what happened. Let's go look at our access control lists, and if we look at our inbound from internet list, it doesn't say, there's no ICMP that we just added. But wait, if we look down here, we have this extra rogue list with capital I's. Yeah, that command I just did, I put capital I's instead of lowercase, and what it actually did was create a new list called inbound from internet with capital I's that had that one entry. So I did that kind of intentionally to let you know if things aren't working, look closely at what you've typed, because these access list names are case sensitive. So I need to go actually edit the correct list with the correct case and put that entry in. And now, theoretically, our pings should work. So there we go. So access control list names are case sensitive. If your things are not working correctly, show IP access. If your things are not working correctly, look at it very carefully. If you do show IP access list and you typed a wrong thing, you're going to have this extra kind of rogue entry down here that has some extra stuff. So that's pretty much what we're doing for the lab, with the exception of the VLAN 2 list that you need to create on your own, which is going to be exactly the VLAN 3 list, except that it's going to have the VLAN 2 subnet. So yeah, so that's pretty much it.